Looking at the applications layer that you might invest in, what are you seeing that's outside of finance? Because there's a big focus on DeFi and stablecoins and all of this stuff, but there's a much broader use case here, whether it's social media at large or whatever it may be. What are you seeing people building? Are they grasping the opportunity yet?
Hey guys, welcome to Everyday Finance. In comparison to traditional equity markets, Bitcoin is demonstrating remarkable resilience in the face of renewed tariffs imposed by former President Trump, which are beginning to cause unrest in global markets. In just 5 trading sessions, the S&P 500 experienced a loss of market value of $1.5 trillion, while major companies such as Apple experienced steep drops in their market value. Apple alone experienced a decline of nearly 8% after the announcement of a new tariff of 25%. Bitcoin, on the other hand, managed to maintain its equilibrium above the level of $94,000, thereby demonstrating its function as a macro hedge during periods of market distress. Bitcoin's performance in the face of mounting inflation fears and shaken investor confidence highlights its increasing appeal as a safe haven asset. Bitcoin is not immune to volatility, but its performance in this context highlights its increasing appeal. With over 420,000 Bitcoins sitting at a cost basis of $94,000, many investors continue to find themselves in a profitable position. Long-term holders are remaining in their current positions. Rather than indicating panic, this behavior suggests confidence. It's possible that capital that has been leaving traditional markets is now making its way back to Bitcoin, which could mean that it's getting ready for another surge.
So when you go and talk to countries, are you talking more about just starting them on the Bitcoin journey, the first thing that we get all of our friends to do? Or do you open up and say, okay, this is what blockchain rails can do for a country? Because we've gotten a world of AI where digital ID is going to matter, a lot of things are going to matter.
Yeah, I think the conversation today is a bit more advanced than that. There are very specific issues about how to adopt this. I'll give you a couple of examples that are typical discussion points. Many regulators still want to regulate everything locally.
Yeah.
They want a local custody wallet solution. They want a local order book. They want a local everything, local team, etc. But that's usually not the best way to go because setting up a secure custody solution for billions of dollars requires a lot of money, it requires a lot of funds, and requires a lot of expertise, which is very lacking today. Just setting up a global one is already difficult enough. If we have to do 200 times, we just don't have the people, right? For each really cold wallet, you need to have 15 signers. You can't find 15 signers that are not public, that are really extremely trustworthy in different parts of the world, in different geographies, and they're not incentivized by more money. They have a steady job. They're high income. They have a nice family. So you just can't find 100 times more of those 15 people, right? So and also local order book. Again, if you divide each country with their own local order book, liquidity is gonna suck. And so when you want to buy $1 million, the slippage is gonna be super high. So those type of issues are very real concrete issues. Many countries have the capital control. So capital flight issues. Almost all of those countries want foreign direct investment. But the thing is, if you don't open up if people can't get money out, then the money's not going to come in, right? So a lot of those issues that are very real, very tangible issues to address.
And the two big ones that are still addressing this are China and India. Where are they in the process? Because they open, close, because they've got capital issues, capital control issues. Where do they stand right now?
I think China's adopting use Hong Kong as a sandbox kind of approach. Yeah. So I think Hong Kong is extremely pro-crypto now. I think they started changing about 2 years ago. They started issuing licenses. But 2 years ago, the licenses are quite restrictive. So in terms of token listings, etc. So now they're exploring ways to open that up. But Hong Kong still also have to worry about the capital control issue of China. So they cannot blatantly help Chinese mainland users move money out. And the thing is, in crypto, once you buy Bitcoin, which country does that Bitcoin belong to? There's no border, right? So whereas in traditional banks, if you have your money in your Shanghai bank account, that's in Shanghai. When you move it to Hong Kong, that's kind of out in Hong Kong. You kind of know. But if you buy crypto in Shanghai, when you move to the U.S., the crypto is in the U.S. Like it doesn't have that concept of a border, right? So there's some real issues to address there. But in the so you mentioned India. I think India, I have less interactions with, to be very frank. I think based on my knowledge, is pretty much based on public knowledge. I think the tax there is quite high. And to the point where it doesn't make sense to do transactions anymore. So I don't have any much interactions with the Indian governments, but I would very much to see some of those being loosened.
And what about the kind of strategic reserves idea as well? Because that's the hot topic people are seeing happening. Talk us through that and what you're hearing.
There's a few countries who are extremely advanced on that topic. I think Bhutan, I believe His Majesty King of Bhutan is actually in the city today. He's an early crypto adopter. He's a very smart guy. And they have excess energy, clean energy, hydro energy. So they've been mining Bitcoin for years.
Yeah.
So they have billions and billions of dollars of Bitcoin for a very small country. Now they've added Ethereum and BNB to their national reserve. So the early adopters are moving forward. Based on public information, U.S. seems to be using the holding, at least no longer selling the Bitcoin. Some of the OGs like us actually kind of hope that governments will sell their Bitcoin so that other guys can buy them cheaply. But, with this U.S. administration, they're very business savvy. So they understand what's valuable. So now they figured that out. With the U.S., with one of the world's largest economy holding Bitcoin now, or making a crypto reserve, other countries are forced to do it because the later you do it, the more expensive your crypto will be. So so I think we are talking with many countries on advising them how to set up a strategic reserve, and also like even very simple stuff, very basic fundamental stuff like what wallet solutions to use. Do you use a professional custody solution, or do you use your own cold wallets? Do you have enough expertise to build that kind of infrastructure, etc. So for most countries, most countries' starting amount are not as big as the U.S. Right? U.S. have like 200,000 Bitcoins or something. For most other countries, when they hold much smaller amount, we actually just recommend them to use a professional custody solution that's multi-sig, right? So no single person can move the money. When they build up to a certain large amount, then they should move to their own cold storage solution. So there's a lot of discussions along those lines.
Bitcoin reached a new all-time high of nearly $112,000 on May 22, 2025, thereby establishing its position as one of the most valuable assets in the world, with a market cap of $2.2 trillion. At this point, it is on par with other world-renowned corporations such as Apple, Microsoft, and Gold. By reaching this significant milestone, Bitcoin has demonstrated its growing significance not only as a means of storing value, but also as a mainstream financial asset. The fact that countries and institutions are racing to accumulate Bitcoin because they see it as a strategic reserve in a world that is becoming increasingly uncertain is a trend that is reflected in a broader global trend. The growing interest from sovereign entities, which was brought to light in conversations between macro expert Raoul Pal and Binance founder CZ, is indicative of a more profound recognition of Bitcoin as a geopolitical capital. Due to the fact that Bitcoin is borderless and decentralized, it is becoming an essential asset for diversified portfolios that are looking forward. This is because the traditional financial system is experiencing turbulence.
Where's Europe in this whole equation?
Nowhere.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. So I don't see Europe in this discussion. Yeah.
No, it's extraordinary.
Yeah.
And because in the end, this technology enables average people to generate wealth, to be involved in a financial system, and Europe's actively blocking them out.
Yeah, I think so far the only there's an exception. Montenegro is actually quite pro-crypto.
Right.
We have an active dialogue with the prime minister there, and he's a very forward-thinking person, leader. So, but other than Montenegro, I don't have any other. It's kind of missing on the map. Yeah.
So what gets you excited when you're looking at the crypto markets these days? What innovations, what things are happening that you're like, this is really interesting?
I think the crypto industry, so there's a lot of money flowing around, but they're all chasing short-term gains. So I would like to sort of help the founders to build real products. So I'm a builder myself. I like to see products built that a lot of people use. So I think that's the single most important metric. It's not the token price. It's not everything else. It's just building use cases for people. So this is why I'm actually spending majority of the biggest chunk of my time today is spending on Easy Labs with founders. So talking with the founders, looking at different projects, and just trying to help them. There are still many strong founders. It's just that their voice is a bit muffled right now. So I think we got to help those founders to be more vocal, more active, and also more engaging in the community, and help them raise money, help them design proper long-term token economics, etc. So that's where I spend actually quite a lot of my time.
And when you're looking at the applications layer that you might invest in, what are you seeing that's outside of finance? Because there's a big focus on DeFi and stablecoins and all of this stuff, but there's a much broader use case here, whether it's social media at large or whatever it may be. What are you seeing people building? Are they grasping the opportunity yet?
To be honest, I think they're all very early stage. I think crypto so far has not expanded beyond trading. But this also represents an opportunity. So right now, RWA is quite new. It's growing, but it's still finance related. It's still sort of tokenizing real world assets, etc. DeFi or decentralized social media hasn't really taken off yet. There's a number of really interesting attempts that we're looking at. But when I talked about the government solutions, I think that's another area that most likely can take off. And that's not finance related, right? So those are just pure blockchain for efficiency and for transparency. For example, land title rights. In many countries, they don't have very good systems. Even in Japan, they still use a piece of paper with a scratch-off code to verify you own that piece of land. And if you lose that piece of paper, it's actually quite difficult to replace or to get it back. So in other parts of in Africa, there's many land you don't know who it belongs to. So, and also even in countries like US, where there is fairly mature record keeping, but the record keeping is done manually, and the local municipal office keeps that record, and it's not digitized. So when you try to buy a piece of land, you don't know the history of that land. You don't have data, so then you cannot price it, and then you have low liquidity. So there's all of these issues which can be addressed, and we are actually investing in a company that's solving this problem. We recently invested in Sign, which is another project that does digital decentralized IDs, and they are building layer 2s for governments, etc. So I'm pushing them really hard. So there's a lot of interesting solutions being built.
Yeah, I think everything that can be digitized will get digitized. And we're seeing that trend, and there's so much efficiency, particularly like government level and stuff like that. One of the things that you were known for was the investment in X.
Yeah.
Now, what did you see in that? Because you don't make a big investment like that unless you see something in the future that could be related to crypto Web3.
Yeah, to be honest, X was a different type of philosophy. I think freedom of money is important. But to have freedom of money, you have to have freedom of speech. Freedom of speech is kind of the bottom layer. If you don't have that, then no other freedom kind of works. So when we invested in X, Twitter back then, it was based on that philosophy. And then I actually didn't expect that they would turn to become XAI. So now we're a minority shareholder in a leading AI company. So fantastic.
And talking of AI, how are you thinking about how AI is going to change even this industry?
Oh yeah,
outside of just developers using AI to write faster code, but
yeah. So I think AI has a lot of use cases. Well, number one is AI, I believe, will completely revamp the user experience, how you interact with blockchain.
UX feels like it's all going to.
It's all going to change, right?
Yeah.
So I think AI has so many different applications that. Unfortunately, this industry happened before AI, so we need to change this industry to an AI-enabled industry.
Yeah.
Both in terms of apps we're building, product tools, customer support, risk management, risk monitoring, and also AI itself can use blockchain. right? So I think, as I said, tweeted before, the currency for AI is crypto. AI is not going to swipe a card, enter SMS code. That doesn't work for AI.
Analysts warn that historical patterns require attention, despite the fact that the recent highs of Bitcoin have caused a certain amount of excitement. Throughout its history, Bitcoin has consistently followed a 4-year cycle that is characterized by phases of accumulation, growth, speculative bubbles, and sharp corrections. Each of these phases is initiated by the halving event, which occurs every 4 years and cuts minor rewards in half. Currently, Bitcoin appears to be in the middle of its bubble phase, which typically lasts between 12 and 18 months. The most recent halving took place in April 2024, and it appears that this phase is currently occurring. If the current cycle is similar to the previous one, which saw Bitcoin reach a high of $60,000 in 2021, before falling to $30,000, then reaching a high of $69,000 before falling to $16,000 in 2021. 2022, individuals who invest in the cryptocurrency should get ready for increased volatility. These previous movements are very similar to the chart for the year 2025, and while it is possible that the price will break out to 200,000, it is also possible that it will make a significant correction back towards 69,000. When it comes to experienced investors, the message is crystal clear. Maintain vigilance, find ways to mitigate risk, and avoid being blinded by short-term hype. Bitcoin's wild ride is not even close to being over,